Welcome to the Midnight Spaceship. It is the Slade ham experiment. That is where I hide early on in the week and dump the contents of my brain into the far reaches of outer space. It's more of a midnight trash truck. Anyway, I've got a lot to get to today. Normally, I don't have enough stuff to fill the half hour. This week, I don't think I have enough half hour to contain the stuff. Some of this might get punted to next week. That's fine. I am remiss, though, if I don't warn you about August 19th. Nothing to warn you about, except I'm coming through Houston and I'm doing the biggest show of my career. I'm taping my brand new special. I would love for you to be there. There are seats available. The pit is sold out. That was awesome. Happened very quick. Still seats available, though, if you want to get in. It's a great theater. There's not a bad seat. Go to sladeham.com for tickets. August 19th, taping that at Match, the Midtown Arts and Theater Center here in Houston. All right, that's all the business that is important. I have shows this week. I'm down in Padre Thursday night, The Riot Sunday night here in Houston, a little warm-up, and then July 8th up in Kerrville. That's the closest I'm getting to you, Austin, on this tour. And then Canada. That's all the business. That's officially all the business. All right. Colorado. I drove out to Colorado. This is the first road trip I've taken in a minute. I've been a flying fool. I talked about that last week. So I drove this, and I opted to stop in Palo Duro Canyon. Palo Duro Canyon. Now, getting up to Amarillo, you got to picture Texas. Texas is massive. Whatever your state is, it's just a little square in the grid that is Texas. It's huge. So from Houston, you drive north, and you go up 45 through Dallas, almost. You cut over through Fort Worth. You continue north up into the Panhandle. And what happens is you start going through these series of small towns. And I've been working the road my whole career. These are old road bones right here. I'll put myself up against any trucker. I just drive the back roads. They drive the big interstate corridors. It's all the same mileage. And these little Texas towns, I know they all contain certain elements. Inexplicably so. Like I know they weren't all talking to one another when they developed, yet simultaneous. It's like all those places in the world that built the pyramids at the same time. You know what I mean? Chichen Itza and Machu Picchu and the Giza, they all came up with pyramids or whatever. I made those three up. They might not even have pyramids. But the point is that all these little Texas towns simultaneously developed the same technology as you're driving through. Just a Dairy Queen and a Dollar General and 3 used car places and a Pizza Hut, and then there's always one Mexican joint, and it's always a local spot. It's Mama Juanita's, or so, they just pick some Mexican name that hasn't been chosen before. Aztec Flowers, whatever they just pick it. Aztec Flowers actually sounds cool. It's never that. It's always got some old lady's name. Abuela Mary's, they always got one of them. And it's terrible Mexican food. Don't ever stop at these places. And then, more inexplicably than that, there's always a weird, from nowhere Asian restaurant. Usually a Chinese restaurant, sometimes Thai. That's a new thing. But mainly there's an Asian restaurant. And it's never a chain. It's never a Panda Express. It's never any place you've ever been before, but it's sort of named the same way. Golden Wok, Happy Monkey. They pick some random Asian, but it is run by real. This is the thing. There's always a real Chinese lady running the place. And I don't know how every Every Texas town has one of these little Chinese spots run by someone needs to tell me how a Chinese person ended up in every little Texas town. It's like they dispersed from Deadwood, and every little city got one like a wizard, and they opened up a restaurant. I don't know why. It's the same cookie cutter town. Contrary to your beliefs, there are not churches visible. These are off the road. These aren't on the main roads. Sometimes, should the city warrant it, it will have a Walmart. That will be a large parking lot that also has other businesses in it. Sometimes a snow cone stand or a little coffee stand, whatever you can build out of a portable building you could buy from in front of a Home Depot and transport over to the Walmart parking lot and sell some sort of catered good. Anyway, all these, and there's always like a little downtown area that's got like the old stone buildings with the plate glass windows, and there's inexplicably still like a suit store open, and then like an old-timey bank. Like Johnson's Bank, and you just walk in and they still got the old like bars, like Bonnie and Clyde are gonna rob the place. It's every little old town. And then like a Del Taco. Anyway, that's what I drove through. That's my whole drive up to Palo Duro Canyon. I do love these little towns. They're fun for me, one after another. And as you're coming in, it's such a speed trap. Thank God Waze has started if you don't have the Waze app on your phone, you should put it on there. That's not a paid sponsorship. That's not an ad. That's me telling you heart to heart that what has kept me from getting speeding tickets. I don't speed much anymore. I'm very careful, but I am inattentive. And going in and out of these little small towns, the speed limit will hit 75 for a long time. And then as you come into each one of these small towns, it does a stair step down. It'll go 65, 60, 55, 50, 45, 35. And then you got to creep through the little town, past all the things we talked about. And then it does the same escalation on the way back up. And this must happen 80 times between here and Amarillo. But Waze puts the speed limit on the app, so you always know what the speed limit is. If we could somehow tie that into my adaptive cruise control, we're getting there with self-driving cars, I will be a happy camper. Anyway, I'm sidetracked. Palo Duro Canyon was blissful. I had not been up there. It's a state park I'd never been to. And I got this campsite. Now, when I go camp, I'm not a socialite. I'm not the woo party animal, shirtless dude running from campsite to campsite. None of that. I set my stuff up. I like to be left alone, especially on a trip like this. I booked it 9 hours up there, right? That's the drive from Houston. It's not bad, 8.5 maybe. It's really peaceful. I get up there at the right time of day. It's perfect. Temperature's starting to drop, so it's not that blistering sun. The canyon's casting a shadow across the campsites. It's got to be in the upper 70s maybe. Enough wind to get rid of the bugs, like there were no bugs. A lot of the campsites are vacant. I set everything up, kind of flopped in my hammock. Now, I did the intelligent thing. When you go to a state park, write this down, bring wood. You're very likely not going to be able to go forage for it. All right? This isn't some primitive campsite. You're not wandering out into the backwoods where nobody's watching. You're in a state park. If everybody that came to a state park took their firewood from the trees, there would be no state park. They would all look like Joshua Tree without the tree. They would just look like Joshua. I'm sorry, Joshua. So about 3 hours outside of Houston, I'm like, man, I should stop and get some wood. I might as well fill the car back up. That way I'm prepped. And I realized I drove off without my wallet. And I had I've now resolved everything. Mercifully, the answer to the question is, I remembered that I had just saved a credit card on my phone, which allowed me to do the tap pay, which remarkably is in more of those small towns than you would have thought. The tech has made it there. Good for you, the rest of Texas. My emergency cash wasn't in my car because I just got my oil changed. I don't trust the people who changed my oil. Not that I don't trust them specifically. I just don't trust anybody. I usually keep like an emergency $100 in my car. That's not an excuse to go break into my car. You'd never find it. Trust me. I had it well. I don't know why I think that the oil change people are going to find it. That's an old paranoid muscle I got to work on. It's my distrust for humans. But Long story short, I had removed all of my safety nets that I usually put in place so that nothing like this happens to me on a road trip. And somehow managed to get all the way up there. I found a place that would take the little bump to pay. I got firewood. I loaded up. I got everything. I get in. I set up my campsite. And I hear two people come in at the same time. This dude set up over here. Dude set up over here. And I can hear them. They're both one on either side of me. And the two guys over here, it's their once a year camping trip. They're doing guy stuff. They're not good at it. They're like, they both 1,000% work IT, but they came out, they got some stuff. They're not hopeless. They're glamping a little bit. There's pillows and blow up mattresses, but they're dudes. It's fun. I got it. Good guys. Now, what they don't have, I hear one of the guys go, "Oh, shit, man, I forgot the hot dog buns." Okay? Now, over to my left, man shows up with his wife and a kid. And they didn't bring firewood. So the guy comes walking over to the campsite where the two guys are. "Hey, guys, I happen to hear y'all say," it was a clever move on his part, "you say you didn't have any bread. I brought some bread over if you guys want some bread." He's bartering. Oh, cool. He's going to get some firewood. And the guys are like, "Well, we have a couple of pieces. Thank you for the bread." They trade him a couple of pieces of firewood. They take the bread. And the guy comes walking by me with his 2 pieces of firewood. He's, "Hey, man, any chance I could buy some firewood off of you?" And I said, "Man, I need all of this. You look like you got a couple of pieces." And I should have been kind. I sent him on his way. Now, I should have been kind. That's a deep thing in my character that makes me react that way automatically. I'm working on it always. I let that dude go back over. And I'm watching him. And for about 10 minutes, and he can't get this fire started at all. And the dude's kid is over there. A bunch of other stuff. I mean, it just... So I go over and I take one of my logs that has a bunch of sap like dried on it. I throw it in the fire for a minute till it lights up like a torch. And this poor dude, I come walking out of he already looks defeated. He's been over there. His wife, she has this disappointed look on her face because he's trying to light this fire. I don't know what he's trying to light it with, but it isn't other fire. The kid, kid's got to be 5 maybe. But he just looks so... He's not old enough to know that he's disappointed in his father yet, but it could go either way. This kid watches this for too long, the mom's going to say so. So I just walk over, and I come out of the fog. I'm sort of carrying this torch like Prometheus, and I throw it on top of there. I got 2 other pieces of wood. I toss it back down. I go, "Here, man." And then I take it, and I set it down for him. I sort of stack it all up, and it gets lit. And I go, "Man, just go tell your kid you got everything fixed." And he goes to hand me back my lighter. And I just, "No, man," I go, "just hang on to it. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't want it to go out. And you have to come back over and get me." So just keep the lighter. I let his kid think he pulled it off. Which lesson you going to teach that night? My gut was teaching that, hey, bro, don't show up to state parks without firewood. That's the first lesson I wanted to teach. But instead, I don't know what lesson I taught. Be better about lighting fires in front of your kid. Who knows? It's a blissful trip. Anyway, the world was on fire the whole week I was gone. Submarines and Russians. This Ukraine thing, I can't. I'm not watching it, but I can't stop listening to the things about it. This coup this past weekend, was that a coup? What happened? One minute Putin's about to get overrun, and then the next minute it's over. It's just done. They could have had this coup, as my buddy Trey would have said, in a group text. And I don't know, the whole situation over there is something worth watching. The Ukraine is run by President Vladimir Zelensky, who is a former comedian, which gives me much hope. Not that I ever want to run an Eastern European country, but And he wasn't just like a nobody. He wasn't an open micer. He had some success. He had a TV show in the Ukraine. He was the voice of Paddington Bear in the 2 Paddington movies in Ukrainian, which is a language that I just learned. I didn't learn the language, but I learned that it is a language. Anyway, the point is that the dude was moderately famous. Now, Russia was almost overrun by the dude whose name I can't pronounce. Prigozhin, the dude who runs Wagner, the mercenary group, I guess, hired by Russia to fight most of their war. I feel like I'm reading really bad 80s or 90s sci-fi. He is a caterer, former caterer, turned warlord. Which really, if you're going to take something away from this at all, should be that Europe is way less fixated on staying the course once you decide you don't want to stay in your current career. How many of you are still sitting at a job you hate? How many of you are afraid to walk away because you've put in too much time or you might have seen a little bit of success? Maybe you were a chef. Maybe you were a comedian. Maybe you wanted to be a mercenary. Maybe you wanted to be the leader of a country. I don't know. But you got to fearlessly walk away from that, and it's only the Europeans have that approach. They're so casual with you not having to stay the course you originally set out on. That's what we could learn from Europe. And then it was just over like that. Just the whole coup. Just, oh yeah, he's going to stay there. It's astounding. This whole world. A submarine went down with 5 people. And I'm trying to walk my way through this situation and say everything I want to say. As a comedian, I would enter myself as an expert on what is funny, what is comedy, how it works, what's in play, what's in not, to an extent. Not always right, mind you, but an expert. I put in the time. And this submarine disappeared. And I cannot tell you the amount of jokes I saw on Facebook. Now, on the sub were 2 billionaires, or at least 1 billionaire, another big entrepreneur. It was the owner of the company, the sub company, another adventurer, and one of the guy's kids. A couple of billionaires, though. Do I have any of the... These are all off a couple of threads. They wouldn't have died if the submarine was yellow. After all, we all lived in a yellow submarine. This was on an ad for a different submarine company that was offering poorly timed tours. Does this operate with game controllers? Asking for a friend. Jesus Christ. Prices are sinking fast. You too can know what it feels like to be a billionaire. Have the same experience without needing the same funds. Someone else. This isn't going to go down very well. Oh, my Christ. These are the jokes that people... You get to see Jack. The Titanic still drowning rich people 101 years later, 111 years later. It's not our fault the missing submarine doesn't have bootstraps to pull itself up with. These aren't funny. The bootstrap one is technically correct, but the rest of these are terrible. 2, I'm a First Amendment almost absolutist. I'm not anything absolutist, but I believe you should be able to say almost anything, and I believe that you should also read the room. I believe that we have some sort of we have a concept amongst ourselves about what should and shouldn't be allowed, and it's this. I'm pro tension break, right? This is a tense situation. People are possibly in peril. I'm not a too sooner, not a don't say it, not a don't break the tension. I understand that part. But a lot of this was coming from people who have been loudly against anyone making fun of other people, especially making light of people dying. That is, I think, a proper thing. It's to not make fun of, not aggressively. There are situations to laugh at death, 100%. But when something happens to you see this on the right a lot. When something happens to somebody that is, say, trans or gay, or there's a public LGBTQ scenario where something negative, bad has happened. It happens with race or with during the Stop Asian Hate, during Black Lives Matter. Anytime a marginalized group is affected by a public tragedy of some sort, people on the far right tend to dogpile on. And instantly you see the gay jokes or the trans jokes or the black jokes or the Asian jokes. And they're similar in tone and tone deafness to the Submarine jokes. And the same people who get up in arms at the people for making those jokes on the far right about the marginalized group and whatever the scenario was are the exact same people who are making these comments on Facebook and on Twitter and on social media. And I know this because I know these people. These aren't anecdotal. These aren't things scrubbed from some other website. These are people I know. And this is why I believe it's so deeply important to travel, to go places, to see the world, or to walk around your neighborhood, or get to know people different than yourselves, or have an experience that is different than the one you were born with and live with every single day. Because what we tend to do is make fun of the things that we don't understand, the things that are distant from us, right? The further away it is from us, the easier it is to make fun of with impunity. So if we live in this world over here and we haven't seen $1,000, much less $100, we certainly haven't seen $1 billion. Billionaires aren't real to these people. That's what allows you to make jokes like this, because you can't empathize with it, right? Those people are billionaires. They are $250,000 below the ocean. They are so far away from you, it's uncanny. That's why it's okay to make fun of these people. And I see it on both sides, and it makes me, not want to say it makes me sick, it makes me giggle because I think it's stupid. I think you need to stop. If you go try to understand other people, if you go put yourself in their place, if you go occupy their world, if you go inhabit their mindset for just a moment, it makes it very terribly hard to say you wish them dead. What do you call the billionaires on the bottom of an ocean? A good start? Really? People believe some weird stuff. People think some weird stuff. People do some weird stuff. Doesn't make it okay. Once you make it okay to just publicly mock human death for any reason, the minute you can justify it, you create a continuum. You create that instantly. There is a point where it becomes okay to do that, and at a certain point past, there's a point where it's not okay anymore. And I don't know what gets you protected status, but human should be the status. If you fall on that continuum, anywhere inside the human block, you should get some compassion for being in a smashed up tin can on the bottom of the ocean because you're following something that excites you. That's how dumb you got to be to go down to the bottom of the ocean. Fuck off. These people this is something you get in your head. I can't explain to you what makes people want to do stuff, but you can't be upset with them for having the means to go out and do something that they think makes them happy. That's a whole sidebar I get into about happiness and how that works. But all you're doing is trying to have the best experience you can. You want to see the thing that makes your heart beat. You want to see the thing that makes you excited to get up in the morning. And I guarantee you this, the morning of that dive, those people got up very excited. And I would bet that before they got down there, for about an hour and a half, and for the whole morning before that, every single one of those $250,000 was worth it. Sure, it wasn't at the end. Sure, that was a stupidly made sub. Sure, it was purely or improperly researched and nobody did their homework and this thing wasn't certified. There's a million things wrong with it. It should have been made of carbon fiber and all the bitching and moaning and blah, 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 blah. Sure, all of that. But for the most part, we just should be responsible stewards of these adventures, right? You look at Everest, you look at some of these other things. I don't find fault in these people for going. They're following something, some passion, some dream in some capacity, wrong or right, misguided or otherwise. Be better to the environment when you take these treks. There's a lot of things to consider, but these people should not be mocked for going to do something that they thought was going to make them happy, that they thought was going to fulfill their spirit of adventure, that they took a proactive trip to the bottom of the ocean, and there they lie, and everybody gets to talk trash about them, and in a week they'll be right back on the defending side of things, going, I can't understand how you could ever make fun of such a helpless group. And I go, what could be more helpless than 5 people in an implosion 2 miles below the surface with no radio contact and no oxygen and no pressure suits? It's about the most defenseless group you can get in your entire life. Outside of them being 5 little toddlers, I don't know how you'd pull it off. So rest in peace to the crew and the adventurers of the Titan. To you guys outside. I hope the Midnight spaceship is properly pressurized for this particular portion of the galaxy. I'm going to bookmark this whole other chunk. Give me something to talk about next week. I'm still on tour. Dates are up at sladeham.com. Thank all of you in Colorado. I'm having a blast working out this new show. I'm excited to show it to you. If you get a chance to come see me on tour, you will have a sneak peek. The rest of you, August 19th, please join me. Match the Midtown Arts and Theater Center here in Houston, Texas. It's on Main Street. It's in Midtown. Tickets are available at sladeham.com. Hope you made it home safe, Nate. All my other friends. Cheers.